Hello, everybody. Carla Archer here, helping you work on your wellness. Hope you're doing great today, and thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about it doesn't matter what others are doing, it matters what you are doing. And, this just might be where you're at generally, or it might be under circumstances. Maybe you've been in the same household with the same people for a prolonged period of time. Maybe your new style of work is starting to affect you and how you're responding. And oftentimes we tend to look externally, pointing the finger and saying, yeah, but if they would do that, or why are they like that, or what's going on? Like, who does that person think that they are? And different things like that. We're always pointing, right? And that old adage of pointing your finger at somebody, there's always three pointing back at you. And ultimately, that's really what it all boils down to. And you know what? That's easy to do. We're humans. This is our probably a lot of times our natural reaction. If we are feeling emotionally overcome by something, we have a tendency to look to an outward source to not necessarily place blame, but place blame and look for a solution somewhere to drop those emotions and feel like that's going to fulfill us. But as Gandhi's always said, this is a great quote that I've been hearing for years, is, be the change you want to see in the world. And it really ultimately is true. For anything to change, we ultimately need to look internally. And some people might say, well, that's just cliche, or that's BS, or I don't want to have to do that, or whatever the case may be. But when you can really take a look internally and understand what the root cause is of the issues, and figure out if there is a pattern that's going on here, it really makes a big difference, because recognition of those repeated behaviors creates change. Because if we just go through anything without any recognition or any awareness to what might be going on, we are unaware. And you can't make any changes or any differences if you are not aware. Here's an example. I'll come in the house and I'll say, I really need to dust because it's really dusty in here. And my husband will go, I don't see any dust. So, two different levels of awareness. But my being aware of it makes me notice it more and makes me want to do something about it. Whereas it hasn't got to the point yet where it's an awareness for him just yet. So he's not ready to resolve or take a look or do anything about the dusting. So this is just like anything internally inside of ourselves. And so when we start to recognize, what happens when we react to certain things, we will start to notice that we are reacting that way frequently in the same manner to the same sort of thing. It's kind of, again, like an analogy. I love analogies, that, hey? Of buying a car. You go buy a white SUV, suddenly you're driving around, you're like, holy cow, there's like tons of these on the road. Well, you weren't aware of that before because you weren't connected to it. You didn't focus your time, your energy on that. So you weren't even thinking about, why would you be, right? But as soon as you got one of those vehicles, you're thinking about it, you're seeing it, you're looking at it, you're loving it. And then suddenly you start to notice them popping up all over. So the same thing sort of goes with our emotions. Now, I get it. When I was back in my 20s, I used to feel very frustrated with people. I sort of had expectations. I had a hard time understanding why people are like this. Why do they have to do that? Why do they have to be like that? Why can't they just this? Why can't they just that? And I realized that was emotions that were sort of overtaking me. And I thought, I don't think I can live my life feeling this way all the time about everything, because it felt really hard. And it felt like this just doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem like the way that I should be living. And I happened upon this wonderful book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by a lady named Debbie Ford. And what it says on the back, it says, why do we find ourselves disproportionately angry with the selfishness of friends, the laziness of coworkers, the arrogance of a family member, or even the rudeness of a stranger? Why do the same old things get to us so easily and so intensely? Well, our same old things, Debbie Ford explains, are clues to our dark sides and to the emotions and traits that we fear the most in ourselves. Now, I've read this book multiple times. I've lent it to several people. And what it really did for me was start me becoming aware of my reactions and my behaviors. And it all starts with really small steps, guys. This isn't like you're going to pick up this book and your whole life is going to change instantaneously. But anything that I learn, I find like I take a little bit of that, a little grain, and I start working with it. And it's again, just drawing that awareness. And when you recognize, that's when you can start to create change. So make a little commitment to yourself. If this is something that maybe is going on in your world right now or has been going on, and you're like, it just doesn't make me feel good. And it takes so much of my energy to respond in that way when, again, when we're looking externally, we're not necessarily going to change that person. We have no control over them. The only one we have control on is right here. So when I did read this book, and it opened up my awareness to the fact that, take a moment is what she suggests in here. And I love Mel Robbins' technique for anything that I do when I just need to take a moment in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That 5 seconds there is going to shift and change your perspective in your brain and can shift you from having a reaction to just not having that same reaction and taking a moment and sitting with it before you react. Now, what that also does for me too in this book, what really taught me is to take a moment and think about a time when I may have behaved that way. Because we're quick to judge, we're quick to criticize, we're quick to look at other people, point the finger. But then if you start to take a second and go, when have I ever done that? And maybe what was going on with me? Right? Ask yourself, what could be going on in that person's world right now that they would act that way? Because maybe number one, they typically don't act that way, or maybe they act that way all the time, but there's something going on there with that person. So if we can step back and just think about that, and we can ask ourselves too, like, are they behaving that way because of fear or worry? And maybe again, connecting with, when's the time that I ever did that? Gosh, yeah, you know what? I did that because, I was really stressed out, or I was tired, or I was worried, or I was fearful of what was going to happen. That level of compassion will change things for you significantly. Because if we can take a moment and choose to have compassion for something that may be going on with somebody else, we are less likely to let our emotions take over, let our brain and our fears tell us what possibly could be going on, and just sit with it and be a more compassionate individual to that person. Because we can go, yeah, I remember a time when I did that. I remember how crappy I was feeling. I was going through a divorce. I had lost somebody in my family. I was whatever the case may be. And you go, ooh, I get that. So rather than putting that person down or being, nasty back to them, show them love and kindness, because that's truly what they need right now. And that is not easy. That's not easy, because our first reaction typically is to go for the jugular, defend ourselves. Our fear gets in the way and goes, well, I'm not going to let you treat me like that. I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. Or just thinking that, they're just jerky. And honestly, there are people, I'm sure, that are jerky, but most people aren't jerky just to be jerky. There's usually something else going on. So when we can be the bigger person in that moment, and that can be hard, there's no doubt about it, but if we can just step back and be that bigger person for a moment and see what's going on, and maybe offer that person what they need and probably what they didn't expect, because they know what it's like. If you've ever been kind of jerky or nasty or snap and you've got things going on, usually we don't feel that great about ourselves after that, right? So instead of letting somebody affect you, you react, take a moment, sit with it, offer some compassion about it, think about where they're coming from, and then offer them a kind word, or ask them if you can help, or, hey, buddy, you know what? You don't usually act this way. What's going on with you today right now? Because maybe they just need to talk about it too. So this will not only change and make you happier and healthier, but this also rubs off on other people. Because when you start changing your perspective and you start behaving in a different way, we kind of are creatures of mimic, and we do mimic what other people do. And if people start seeing you doing that, they will tend to look at that and go, most are not reacting the same way. And that's got them thinking now. So that could just help to make things a little bit better for everybody. So these are just some of the things that, like I said, that I had to make a choice in my life about who was I going to be and how was I going to live. And energetically, how did I want to spend my energy, because I was dumping it in places that just offered no value for me and was doing me no good. And at the same time, my reaction was hurting other people as well. And so I didn't want to be that way anymore. So I just slowly started to draw awareness. I read this book, started thinking about, what I was seeing, ways that I could change my perspective, stopping and taking a moment. And hey, I'm not perfect. I still have times where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm fed up, but I don't have what it takes right now to deal with this. But I always try to just take that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take a moment, take a breath before I respond and react and go, that person's worried about me. That's why they're being that way. They're fearful. They're tired. They're not feeling well. Something else is going on within them. And I do work at being the bigger person as much as I possibly can. So just a few things that have gone on in my life that still go on a daily basis. This isn't something that just, or like I said, miraculously sort of changes itself. It's a work in progress, and allow it to be just that for yourself. One other thing that I've been doing too to help, balance my brain, and with practice activities you can do for balancing your brain. So, listening to vibrational frequencies, you can do some meditation, doing exercises, just taking a moment just to think and reflect and get in touch with the things that kind of set you off, and just pick one of them and start working on that and start identifying why some of those reasons may be. One of the other things that I have to say really offered a tremendous help to me is wearing my neurological technologies. I wear both the HPT and the CBT and the sleeve to, calm my mind, bring my brain and my body into balance. It's working with my cognitive function, helping with stress and anxiety. And I definitely account a lot of my peace of mind and my ability to react and take a moment and, be in that good place energetically to wearing the technologies too. So in the end, love yourself, do your best, try to work on that, because as much as you are being compassionate and helping that person externally, you're also helping yourself. Because if you were like me, like I said, it was no fun to walk around feeling that way all the time. And I knew I needed to make a change, and it's made me much happier and much healthier. And it has enhanced my relationships with people that much more too. So start working on yourself, love yourself, and take good care of yourself and those around you. Now, if you guys like to follow me, if you're not already, you can follow me here on Facebook at Carla Archer, helping you work on your wellness. I try to provide content every day. I'm not necessarily on the video every day, but try to bring you some new information about things to help you work on your wellness. So thanks for joining me today. I'll put the Debbie Ford's book information down below so that you guys have a way to take a look at that if you are interested in reading it. I highly recommend it. It had really provided great value for me and helped me to change my life and my responsiveness and help me to love myself just that much more. Take good care, you guys. Talk to you soon.